To truly understand the 2019 film Nancy Drew and the Hidden Staircase, one must first dismantle the pristine, blue roadster driving, perfectly coiffed image of the Nancy we think we know. This film, directed by Katt Shea and bearing the surprising imprimatur of Ellen DeGeneres as a producer, is an explicit act of modernization, a cinematic attempt to see if this Depression-era detective can breathe in the age of social media, cyberbullying, and skateboarding. It is a film less concerned with slavish devotion to its source material, the second volume in the original series, published in 1930, and more interested in using that title as a familiar framework upon which to build a contemporary young adult narrative. Our entry point into this new iteration of River Heights is not one of comfortable familiarity, but of displacement. This Nancy, embodied with a compelling, simmering intelligence and requisite outsider angst by Sophia Lillis, is a refugee from the metropolis. Following the tragic death of her mother, she and her father, the perpetually concerned lawyer Carson Drew, have fled Chicago for the cloying, small-town quiet of River Heights. This is not a triumphant return. It is a retreat. And Nancy is miserable. She channels her grief and intellect not into solving charming local mysteries, but into acts of minor rebellion. We first meet her executing a small-scale, satisfying act of vigilante justice against a local bully, using her skateboard as her primary mode of transport and righteous indignation as her fuel. She is, in essence, a detective without a case, applying her formidable skills to the problem of her own boredom. The film spends significant time establishing this new persona. This Nancy wears beanies and flannel, not pearls and twin sets. She is quick-witted but socially isolated, preferring the anonymous company of an online friend to the performative hierarchies of high school. Her primary antagonist is not a shadowy jewel thief, but Helen Corning, the reigning queen bee of the local school, who epitomizes the privileged conformity Nancy disdains. This setup is crucial. The film argues that before Nancy can become a detective, she must first be a believable teenager, and a teenager in 2019, the film posits, is defined by skepticism and a slight chip on her shoulder. The catalyst for the actual mystery, when it arrives, feels almost like an intervention. After Nancy's community service adjacent antics go a step too far, Carson, in a bid to channel her destructive energy, nudges her toward a real case. The client is Flora, the elderly, vibrant owner of the historic Twin Elms mansion. Flora's problem is decidedly old-fashioned. She believes her house is haunted. This is the hidden staircase of the title, and the film leans into the Gothic tropes with gusto. Objects move on their own, spectral music plays, and shadowy figures flicker in the periphery. Flora is terrified, but also delightfully intrigued by the fiery young skeptic who arrives on her doorstep. Here, the film pivots, assembling the modern iteration of the Clue Crew. This is perhaps the film's most significant departure from canon. Bess is no longer a timid, slightly domestic cousin, but a fashion-conscious, social media-savvy classmate. George is not a tomboyish athlete, but a sharp, tech-oriented girl who becomes the team's unofficial technical analyst. Their introduction is rocky, fraught with the requisite high school awkwardness, but the mystery of Twin Elms provides the necessary bonding agent. Their friendship, forged in the fires of late-night snooping and shared terror, becomes the film's emotional core, arguably more important than the mystery itself. The investigation proper is a blend of classic sleuthing and modern sensibilities. Nancy, Bess, and George conduct stakeouts, analyze footage, and dig through historical archives. But Nancy also uses her skateboard to make a quick getaway, and George uses her phone to research property deeds and analyze sound frequencies. The hauntings at Twin Elms are genuinely eerie, and the film does an admirable job of balancing supernatural chills with rational skepticism. Nancy, of course, is a firm rationalist. She knows there is no ghost, there is only a person with a motive. Her process is one of elimination. She examines the plumbing, the wiring, and the history of the house, which was built by an eccentric railroad tycoon with a flair for the dramatic and a love of secret mechanisms. The film introduces its red herrings and suspects with calculated precision. There is Willie Wharton, a local contractor with a shady reputation who seems just a bit too eager to buy the mansion. There is the local gossip, and the general air of a town that both reveres and resents the imposing history that Twin Elms represents. But the film's most clever narrative thread is the one woven around Helen Corning. As Nancy delves deeper into the Twin Elms mystery, she also contends with Helen's relentless real-world bullying. Simultaneously, she pours her heart out to her anonymous online friend, Shadow, finding solace in their shared frustrations. The narrative skillfully braids these two threads, leading to a reveal that is, in its own way, as significant as the unmasking of the ghost. The hidden staircase itself is more than a mere plot device. It is the physical manifestation of the mystery. When Nancy finally discovers the network of secret passages, trapdoors, and observation vents built into the mansion's framework, the film clicks into high gear. It's a classic, cozy mystery trope given a fresh coat of paint. The staircase allows the villain to manipulate the house like a giant puppet, creating the illusion of a poltergeist. The climax finds Nancy, Bess, and George trapped within these dark, dusty passages, forced to use their combined wits to outsmart the perpetrator. The resolution, in true Nancy Drew fashion, is deeply practical and terrestrial. The villain is not a spirit, but a person driven by simple, timeless greed. The motive is, as it so often is, real estate. The culprit wants to scare Flora into selling the valuable property so they can proceed with a lucrative development project, a railroad, in a nice nod to the home's original builder. The haunting is a sophisticated, technologically aided performance, using projectors, hidden speakers, and the house's own secret architecture to create a compelling illusion. Nancy exposes the entire plot, not in a drawing room monologue, but in a chaotic, action-oriented confrontation that leverages the very traps the villain set. But the film's true climax is the resolution of its social subplot. Nancy discovers that her cruelest tormentor, Helen, is also her most trusted online confidant, Shadow. This revelation reframes the entire narrative. Helen is not a simple villain, but a complex, unhappy girl trapped by her own social status and a manipulative partner. In a moment of profound empathy that defines this new Nancy, she chooses not to destroy Helen, but to forge an uneasy alliance, recognizing a shared pain. This is the film's most 2019 moment, a recognition that the lines between allies and antagonists are blurred, and that the greatest mysteries are often the people right in front of us. Ultimately, Nancy Drew and the Hidden Staircase is a film about legacy. It struggles, amiably, with the weight of its own name. It cannot be the Nancy of the 1930s, nor does it want to be the hyper-stylized, self-aware noir of Riverdale. It lands somewhere in the middle, a bright, earnest, and surprisingly witty yaw adventure that champions female intelligence, friendship, and empathy. Sophia Lillis carries the film, her portrayal grounding the mystery in a believable emotional reality. The film's greatest success is not in the complexity of its central puzzle, which is satisfyingly straightforward, but in its assertion that a girl can be smart and angry, rebellious and kind, a skateboarder and a detective. It doesn't just update the character, it argues for her relevance, suggesting that in a world of digital ghosts and hidden motivations, we need a clear-eyed skeptic like Nancy Drew more than ever. It's a charming, if not revolutionary, entry that proves the brand is not a relic, but a blueprint, adaptable and resilient, still capable of finding the truth hidden just behind the walls.